I see
anywhere
white
says that. Nothing.
people.
Nothing.
I see white people.
Your ass up.
You
Okay.
are a white
I see
person.
white
You are a
people.
white person. So why are you even coming up here?
I
You
see
cannot
white
talk like a
people.
intelligent human
Stop it.
being,
He's just
and you have
speaking.
no
I
business
see
being here
white
Hold
anymore.
on, let me control this
people.
guy. This guy thinks he control.
White
Who's this guy?
people.
Yeah, he is.
Oh man, goddamn. All right. Yeah, I'm good
So
fuck with this
I'm
guy.
going to
I'm a
jump in
troll.
for
I'm a
a
troll.
second.
You can
I'm going
always
to jump
tell.
in.
You can always tell who they are because they either got goddess in their name or some kind of retarded ass picture on there.
Yeah, that's why I don't let those guys up. They keep
Yakub.
requesting, but I won't let them up.
You guys,
Let the Yakubian up.
hello.
All right, I
Yes.
didn't mean to.
Go ahead.
Hello. So I let him up on purpose just to let him show his ass. Just to have the satisfaction of dropping his sorry ass. And that's how stupid they are. That's how stupid they are. It's just incredible to me. But carry on.
Yep. Yeah, they always show their ass in the beginning anyway. And they are trying to erase. What the heck? Why are you throwing me in there? I don't know what's right or wrong when it comes to the Lumbee tribe. I go off of what people tell me. And you told me you're state recognized. Okay, you're state recognized. I'm not saying you're not, but because I don't
They
know.
used to call themselves Cherokees.
But you're the expert too, so I have no clue. I've never heard of Lumbees until I tell this app.
They used to call themselves. They had
Actually, I
like three
never
different names, right? Taaf, did the Lumbees ever identify as Cherokee? Did they ever attempt to call themselves
Oh
Cherokee?
yeah, they tried to call themselves Cherokee, and we said you're not us. And then they tried to call themselves 20 other different tribes, and all those tribes rejected them too because they're not Indians. And so that's when they decided to invent their own little fake tribe. You
And
know, and
my main concern and the only reason why I came up here was to shed light on the whole unaliving of Native and African children. That's what I came up here for. Once I seen that video, it was on like Donkey Kong. I don't even care.
We ain't got to worry about
If you
that.
align yourself with those people that have that rhetoric, please block me. Please do not be friends with me. Don't
Can I say
follow
something to
me.
Black real
I will
quick?
not follow you. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I was gonna say something to the guy in the comments, right? Because he's saying, "Look, Taaf, let's see your DNA," right? And I think it's funny because he says he's an indigenous person from Mexico, right? And I think it's funny because whenever like a Mexican person tries to claim their indigeneity and they'll cite like their high native genetic ancestry, that like as far as the percentages and ethnic background tests, right? They'll cite, well, hey, look, I got this over 50%, over 60%. A lot of Mexicans have over 50. Some of them have over 80. Some of them are full blooded, and it's not uncommon. It's very common actually in the South. And whenever that's cited, people will say, "Oh, that's you guys are doing blood quantum. You guys are doing white man's blood quantum, right?" But then as soon as somebody challenges a group of like black presenting people who are trying to assert their indigeneity, then you, all of a sudden blood quantum matters to you. So you want to see Taft's blood work. You want to see her DNA. All of a sudden, right? So it's either that percentage is valid and it's a way of judging who is indigenous and who's not, or it's not. You can't just selectively bring it up.
all right, I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to ask everybody else to mute. So I'm getting sick of seeing some of this shit. And I don't really give a rat's patoot what any of these people think. So there's some really ignorant people in the comments making incredibly ignorant comments. And you're just embarrassing yourselves, every single one of you, just embarrassing yourselves. But this is what pretendian frauds do. Because they don't know any better. Because they're delusional. So they talk about my DNA. Why? Because they need to pew the messenger is what they need to do, right? Because they don't have a cogent argument to come back with. So all they can do is sling mud. All they can do is talk nonsense because they don't know any better.
Hey,
God bless.
sorry. I was gonna,
I'm
no, hold on.
talking right now.
I know, but I need to
No.
inform you that there's
No.
somebody reporting your live on the comments. His name is
All
LJ.
right. I'm taking a lesson from Subcomandante and listening to you. That's really frustrating for me, but I hear you. So I'm going to end it, and I'm going to come right back if anybody's interested. And all you pretendian wannabes can come back too. So I'm ending the live. I'm restarting it in a moment. And thank you, Aram. Deal with the colonizers. No, that's not enough. Now we have to deal with all the non-Indian people who want to pretend to be us, distort our culture, steal our ancestors, erase us, like the Lumpies do when the Lumpies say that they are the largest Indian tribe in North Carolina. That's ridiculous because they're not a tribe at all.
Who's gonna tell her? Taaf, attempting to call others out for being frauds isn't your lane. Being a white woman makes your so-called job a running joke. I've called you out before about your anti-blackness, but you seem like you become more covert with your behavior. You have no room to invalidate others when you're a European descendant. Your ancestors were invaders. You're allowed to claim Native American because one of your great-grandfathers raped a Native woman. Lots of individuals like you have the same story. You look into that family history and you'll start seeing records where they're labeled as grandfather awarded Native American wife. What that means is these European men were given a Native American woman who was captured, held captive, then raped. The children that were produced from the assault were then re-educated, aka brainwashed, and put into positions of power. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book. One of the originators of this tactic was Alexander the Great. He was known to marry, and I say this with air quotes, but he would marry off his generals to the native women of the territories he invaded.
But they fool all these other non-Indian people who don't know, who don't understand about any of this. They don't understand about Indian history in this country. They don't understand about treaty law. They don't understand what sovereignty is. And they all want to be Indian until it's time to do Indian things, right? Or until it's time to claim that intergenerational grief and trauma. No. No. And Micah's worried about me. Don't be worried about me, honey. I'm just pissed off today, and it's okay. It's okay. Because these people are just aggravating. But that said, we can't let them aggravate us for more than a few minutes, right? They get a few minutes of our attention and aggravation at a time, and that's it. Because we've got stuff to do. We have work to do. And part of the work of Taaf is absolutely proving that these people are in the wrong. And that is exactly what we will do. We have a mission, and we will see that mission through. All going to be exposed for what they are. We're going to teach people how to vet these fake claims. We're going to teach people how to pretendian proof their organizations. We're going to teach people how to confront this kind of fraud when they see it, what to do about it when they find it, not to enable it. Yeah. So hang on a second, I'm checking for mods. I thank you to Subcomandante for coming back up. I just did deport, what was his name? Aaron? What was his name?
Aram? Yeah, it was like Aram or something like that.
Aram? I just did to poor Aram what I did to you the other day. I'm so sorry.
Nah, you caught yourself before you went too far. Now you're good.
Yeah. I was mad. And I don't get mad very often anymore, like these two times. But it's just and that's the thing, you know, we can't, I'm usually really calm. And we can't let these guys, I can't allow myself to get upset by them because they are just useless people who hurt people and who don't have any clue what they're talking about because they're not us. And yet they're okay with harming us. They're okay with that. As long as they get what they want, they're fine with harming us.
Next time someone interrupts you, like if you're trying to make a point and they start to interrupt you, like I hear sometimes you'll be like, no, you're not going to interrupt me. You try saying, unless it's an emergency, you're not going to interrupt me. Because then if it is an emergency, that gives them a chance to say, well, it is an emergency, Taaf. And then you can be like, all right, then It better be good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's a really good suggestion. Thank you. And I'm going to respond to what Kalala. It looks like Kalala. I have bad eyesight though. Kalala is asking some questions about. I presume the Lumpies. Are the Lumpies recognized? The Lumpies have pulled a couple of jerk moves to try to avoid the OFA process of being federally recognized because they don't have what it takes to become federally recognized because they were never an Indian tribe and are not an Indian tribe. So, since they are repeatedly failing at that, they're trying to skirt the OFA process that the rest of us all approve of and participate in to get what they want because they're not getting what they want. So that is not erasure. You know, calling out a fake group of people calling themselves a tribe is not erasure. That's kind of like when people accuse us of lateral violence. Like, it's not lateral violence, dude, if the people you're talking about are not Indians, okay? It's not the same thing. So, all right, what else is going on down there?
Lateral violence to try to take resources from actual natives when you're not one.
Well, I think when they say lateral violence, they're talking about native on native violence. So it can't be lateral
refers to
violence.
like inner POC community violence too, like, you know, brown on black or black on brown or, you know, stuff like that. Like it could refer to just like any marginalized group attacking another marginalized group.
I agree, and I was given one example, but yeah, absolutely, that is true. So it's not lateral if the other group is not. And in this case, I am specifically referring though to Indian on Indian as lateral. So, you know, but if it's like, let's take it a step further. Is what you're talking about the possibility that this could be black on Indian or Indian?
Aren't most Lumbee like they're mostly mulatto, right? They're mostly half black, half white.
Well, the ones now,
I,
yes.
So the same group of people who whine when they get invalidated are now trying to invalidate a group of people with African ancestry? Very interesting indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all the ones I've ever met. That seems to be the case.
So I would say that it is not erasure or Indian on black lateral violence because these folks are lying about who they are, trying to erase us, and it's not okay. If some people are saying that, for example, Taaf is practicing lateral violence as an Indian community against a black community, that would be true if it weren't for the fact that we're the ones defending ourselves from them, from their erasure of us. So, there's that. Does that make sense? Am I off?
I understood it.
Okay.
Sorry, I got a baby right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries.
Mateo, don't use the baby card over here, Mateo. He loves to use the baby card. He always uses it.
Are you using the baby card?
Whenever I'm in a tight spot and I don't get a smart answer, I just, you know, the baby. Sorry, the baby's calling. Gotta go.
Yep. He's been doing so good with it. I've been thinking about maybe I should find me a girlfriend and get a baby to start using the baby card. Wait a minute,
you
I'm
have
online.
a little baby on hand though. It don't work.
What if I do a recording of a baby and just like hit the play?
The ops and the haters, but now I just block them.
So, Kalala, you're very confused, and I presume you just don't know about these. You're just uneducated about all of this stuff. You don't understand how it works. So it does matter that these people are not federally recognized. It absolutely matters. And 98% of state-recognized so-called tribes are fakes because the criteria is not the same. So just go educate yourself about all of that because it's not that we are kowtowing to the United States government by participating in the Office of Federal Acknowledgement process for being recognized as an Indian tribe in this country. That is not it. And there are a lot of rabbit holes to go down, and it's a lot to know about. So don't talk about stuff that you don't understand because you're not educated about it. Don't be confused. There is no erasure happening. Other than what they're trying to do to us. So in the case of the Lumbees, they are not Indian people. They are a group of people living in North Carolina who decided that they wanted to be Indians. They wanted to play Indian, and they created a tribe for themselves. In order to be a tribe and recognized as a legitimate tribe in the United States, you have to have been here since before the United States became the United States, before colonizers set foot on this continent. You have to have been one of those tribes that were already here. You don't just create a tribe out of nothing all of a sudden and declare yourself a tribe. And I'm trying to
I brought up earlier. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to interject and say that I brought up earlier the example of Mexicans, and that's why I just showed that Mexica tribal card, right? Like 90% of Mexicans carry a indigenous haplogroup, a maternal haplogroup. The average admixture of average Mexican in Mexico is over 50%. Only 10% of the country has less than a 20% admixture of Native American DNA in their genome. So it's overwhelmingly, genetically at least, it's an indigenous nation of people, right? 120 million people, like 100 million of them are indigenous, right? At least genetically. But they're because of mestizaje and like the erasure of indigenous cultures and communities in Mexico during colonialization, right? A lot of Mexicans are separated and don't really have the means of finding out exactly what community they descend from. And if they do find out, there's a chance that community might not even exist anymore. It could be no longer an intact community. So that it would be like if we just made mestizo a tribe now and federally recognized mestizos as a Native American tribe. That's basically what Lumbees are doing. So if they do have Native American ancestry, they don't know exactly which. They can't pinpoint where. They can't say this tribe or that tribe. They can't solidly connect themselves to a pre-colonial intact community that still exists or whatever, you know. So they may have like a little bit of Cherokee here, a little bit of Lakota there. They may be a mix of things here and there, but it's very small. It's a minority of their genome for one. They can't tell you specifically who. They don't have a language that they speak. They don't have a traditional homeland that they used to live on before colonialism. So it's just like they're just mixed race people who are trying to only talk about the one particular race, the one particular admixture that they have that they think is going to reap for them some sort of federal benefits, and they're just trying to glom onto that to get a check or something.
And these folks talking about DNA and stuff, we don't go by DNA. There's a good reason why we don't go by DNA. There's just not enough samples. If you want to know about it, read Dr. Kim Tallbear's book. It's called Native American DNA, Native Belonging and the False Promise of Genetic Science. Yeah. Read that book and you'll understand. So we're not talking about DNA. We're talking about whether or not a group of people were here, living here as a tribe before colonizers set foot here. And we're talking about legitimate, continuous tribal governance, all the things, you know. So it is a little bit about race. It's about blood. It's about, you know, having ancestry within that tribe. It's also a legal political definition for us to be an American Indian citizen of a sovereign tribal nation.
DNA can't tell you what specific tribal community you come from. It can tell you that you have a native ancestor, but it can't tell you if you're Cherokee or if you're Apache or whatever. It can't tell you that.
I'm not even sure I agree with that because I'm thinking about the Cherokee Chihuahua. You know, it's still very flawed with regard to American Indian people. The science isn't there yet. I don't believe in it. You know, and that one
we can agree to disagree there.
Sent in saliva from their Chihuahua, and the company wrote back and said, "Oh yes, this individual is a high blood quantum of American Indian," and one that said that they were actually Cherokee, which is impossible. And so that Chihuahua is very famously referred to now as the Cherokee Chihuahua.
And I've seen a lot of those videos of people doing that with different animals and sending it in. And the one that they always keep sending into the company that's been doing that is 23andMe. I've noticed that all of those have all been from that one. And then when I started looking into it, turns out 23andMe doesn't even have a very big sample group, like you were talking about earlier. How there's not enough sample group there for them to test everything. But I think they only have like I want to say a few thousand or like tens of thousands sample group versus like Ancestry.com has hundreds of thousands of sample group. So there's a big difference there also too, I think, in the company they use and what process is used to do it.
So Kalala wanted to come up here, and I'm just not having it. I don't have any patience left this evening. So the answer is no. She loves Dr. Kim Tallbear, but can't figure out the rest of this stuff. I don't get it.
Hello? Was I muted the whole time, or did I get muted?
You muted yourself, I think.
Okay, my bad. I was going to say, Ancestry.com, they have the biggest database, and they also have access to the largest, the results of the largest genome project that was ever done in Mexico. So, especially in Mexico, they have a pretty good, solid sample size. But the reason why that, you said the Cherokee Chihuahua, the reason why that is because they're using autosomal DNA to quantify the amount of genetic similarities that you share with another population of humans, right? But the thing is, humans share DNA with other creatures too, not just humans, right? So we do share DNA with chihuahuas and dogs and monkeys and bananas and fucking fruit flies, right? We have the same genetic markers that the genetic markers that they chose to identify your heritage is arbitrary. They randomly pick from your first they pick these markers that are present in your first 22 chromosomes, right? Your non-sexual chromosomes, your autosomal chromosomes, right? And they say, okay, well, if this population has this type of marker, and this population has this type of marker, so if you have 50% of the same markers, we'll determine that you're 50% Native American. But a dog or another creature could possibly have those same markers too, because we share I think it's like 70% of our genome with a banana. We share 98.8 something percent of our genome with a chimpanzee. So a lot of our DNA does exist in other creatures. It's not just humans that have that, So that doesn't really disprove the science. It just shows that you can't take a dog DNA test. You can't send Ancestry for humans and a dog DNA test and expect them to be able to know that, because they're assuming that you're not going to do something weird like that. So they're going to just assume that it's a human, and they're going to try their best to give you results.
I'm addressing some comments in the chat. So somebody's asking if we've done any Lumbee genealogy. Yes, we have, and we've proven that several of the Lumbee leadership have no American Indian ancestry whatsoever. Am I talking about DNA that, I can't find the comment, but that something about DNA showing that we're Indian? Of course we have Indian DNA, so I'm not saying that. I'm saying that DNA, that there is a reason why no American Indian nation uses DNA results for tribal membership purposes other than like for a paternity test or something like that. The science just isn't there yet. Otherwise we would, and we don't. We rely on genealogy right now. If the science gets there, I'm sure we will use genealogy, or DNA rather, in the future. But we're not there right now. It's just not how we do it. The Lumbees, I believe what we're seeing with the Lumbee is a group of people that want to play Indian for whatever reason, and most of the Lumbee people have no American Indian ancestry at all. There are a few, I believe, who do. There are a few who do. But they are either descended from tribes that have gone extinct, or they are descended from tribes that are still here, and our recommendation to those few individuals would be that they go and either join those real tribes, or at least become documented descendants of those real tribes, right? And not play in a fake tribe. There's no reason to create a fake tribe. Most of the people in that tribe, that so-called tribe, are not Indian at all. So what I'm saying is that the tribe, the so-called tribe, is not legitimate. There is no such thing as a Lumbee tribe. It never existed. They created it like 100 years ago or so, right? It's a new invention, a recent invention.
Only like 70, 80 years ago. It wasn't even 100 years ago. Not even that old.
Okay. Whatever it was, yeah, it's recent history, right? You know,
Yeah.
talk to me when you can show me that the Lumbee existed 10,000 years ago. Talk to me when you can say something in the Lumbee language. How'd that be? It's impossible, right? Because Lumbee is the name of a river in English. It's an English word. There is no Lumbee language because there was never a Lumbee tribe. That's what I'm saying. Is there anything confusing about that?
Exactly. And like you said, actually, it shows here that they assembled, formally recognized the Lumbees in 1885. That was when they first became who they are. Like, it wasn't that long ago, like y'all are saying. So before 1885, nobody had ever heard of that tribe, Lumbees, at all, because it wasn't around.
Yeah, and somebody just said the Hopi Indian language is not even that old. I'm not sure if I'm reading your message right. They said, Valley Mike said, no, it is impossible because look at the Hopi Indian language. That's not even that old. It sounds like
Sorry.
it sounds like you're saying that the Hopi language is not very old, which is ridiculous. What did you want to say?
Like if the Hopi language is like I think it's like I forgot what language group it's in, but like if it's an amalgamation of two other indigenous languages, I mean that's still it may be relatively new compared to other languages, right? But that doesn't mean it's not indigenous because it's just a more recent amalgamation of older indigenous languages. While Lumbee language is just English with slang. That's all it is.
Exactly. And to Kalala, I happily unfollowed you. No worries. So I just don't understand some of this in here.